everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Nicole and this is Darvanalee Design Studio, and today you've landed on a video that is the beginning of a challenge for 2023, and it's called the A to Z Quilt Block Challenge. So let's get started. Good morning or good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for taking some time out of your day and spending it with me while I show you how to make a quilt block today. And Happy New Year to everybody. I've been a little bit MIA over the last week. I just need to take some time off, but we are back and we're kicking off with a cracker of a series, and it is the A to Z Quilt Block Challenge. Now, I did this last year over in the Facebook group. I did a couple of blocks on the channel, but life got in the way and I didn't continue on with it on the channel, but you know, we still made some blocks and everything over in the Facebook group. But this year we are scheduling it every 2 weeks. We will be making a new block. By the end of the year you will have 26 blocks, and they will be in varying different sizes. Some of them I would have designed, some of them I might find online and make them along with you. You can make the ones that I am making. You can make your own. It is entirely up to you. There are many resources on the internet to find different blocks with different names that start with the letters of the alphabet. So today we are here for one that I have just put together. It's called the Alabama Twist. It's a very simple block to start off with. It is a 12-inch block when it's finished and in a quilt, and I go into detail about why it's that way and everything in the tutorial, which we'll cut to in just a moment. So if you would like to join in the fun of this challenge, there are some links down below where you can find your print off. You can it's just a Google sheet, and basically you can write down, you can go find all your blocks, you can write them down, where you found them, what size they're going to be, the date you started, the date you finished, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, so you can get a whole list, and then you can share them over in our Facebook group or on Instagram. You can give me a tag over there, and that way I can see it as well, because not everybody's on Facebook. So yeah, anyway, we are going to be making the Alabama Twist, so let's get started. So there are a few things that you're going to need today. You're going to need 3 different types of fabric. You're going to need your background, and then you're going to need 2 fabrics, and you want them to be a little bit contrasting so they don't get lost in the block. You're going to also need some pins, either flat pins or some fork pins, which I've got links for all of this stuff down below, except for the fabric, because this is just out of my scrap bin. You'll need some sort of labeling system, so I use the Alphabetis from the Fat Quarter Shop, and you're also going to need some best press to prep your fabrics. You're going to need some thread snips, a rotary cutter, quilting rulers, obviously a working sewing machine, and an iron and an ironing pad, or your ironing board. And of course you're also going to need the pattern if you so choose to make it. Now, I have created a PDF for you. You will find that down below. It's got everything that you need there. And it's all free. It's all just down below. So everything that you need to find, whether it be affiliate links for where to get products, or pattern pieces, or anything like that, will always be linked up down below. If for some reason it is not available anymore, then there will be no link. All right, so let's get rid of all of this stuff off our cutting board and talk about the fabrics that we're going to be using today and what we need to cut. Okay, so as I said, you're going to need some fabric. Now, I'm using 100% quilting cotton for this. I have a lot of this white fabric left over from backings off quilts and everything that people leave behind, so I'm using a bit of that. So you can use your backing fabrics. And then I've just dived into my oddly shaped cut bits and pieces that are a little bit larger in my scrap bin, and I pulled out these 2 pieces here, and they're quite contrasting, so they won't get lost in the block. So once you've picked out your fabrics, you're going to, and you've printed off your sheet, it'll have all the cutting instructions and the size that you need, and also the colors that you need. So I'm just going to set that aside for just a moment. And I've done a little bit of prep off camera. So when I say I've done prep off camera, that means that I have cut it, and I've also used my best press to starch my fabrics before cutting them. Okay, so I've done this a little bit ahead of time. It just saves us a little bit of time. It takes about 15-20 minutes to do all that, so it's not too bad. And as you can see, we need 5 different cuts on the for this block. So the first one is a 2-inch square, and we need 12 of those. The next one is a 2-inch strip, like in 2-inch in width, and it's 9.5 inches. Our next one is 2 inches and 6.5 inches. Our next one is 3.5 inches by 2, and then finally our center block is actually 3.5-inch square. Okay, so you can see there we've got a 3.5-inch square. Fortunately, I don't have enough room to have everything on. So basically, I've cut all that, and I've got all the pieces that I've need, and I've labeled them. So now what I'm going to do, just so because we all know that I'm directionally challenged, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out my block on my design board. Now, our block should be a 12-inch finished block. Okay, so when I say a 12-inch finished block, that means once it's in the quilt, it is 12 inches in the quilt. So when we are making this, and after we've put our block together, it will actually measure 12.5 inches approximately, give or take. Okay, so you want to square it up to that 12.5. All right, so because then once we sew it into the quilt, all our 1/4-inch seams will bring it down to a 12-inch. All right, so when I say 12-inch finish, that means it's finished and it's in the quilt. Before it goes into a quilt, it will measure 12.5. I just want to really stress that, because I know a few people that are beginners that really struggle with that and then have accidentally trimmed down and whatnot. And I tend not to trim any of my blocks until I'm ready to put it into a quilt. All right, so I'm going to start laying out my block, and as you can see on your sheet, you will have a layout feature. It'll also have a black and white one here where you can color it in if you so choose. Okay, and I'm just going to set these off the side, and we will, keeping the labels on them, and I'm going to lay that out. All right, so we know that E is our center block, and then we will have 4 of these, and then we'll have some little yellow ones, which are our cornerstones. Put them in. I'm going to have to make myself a bigger design board, because I know that just looking at this, it is not going to be big enough. But we'll get the idea. Now, these look a little bit smaller because you've got to remember that you've still got to have all your seam allowances into these. But I'm just getting the general idea of how my block is going to go. And I thought I'd start the year off with a nice, easy one. And we know that we've got our final cornerstones, which go out to the side. And then our final, no, there's C. All right, yep, C is the green ones, and D are these ones, so I know. And then we've just got our last white strips that go in. So you can see there that that's what our block's going to roughly look like. Okay, all right, and that is B, so I'll just leave that there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically start sewing our pieces together. So I'm going to start in the center, and I'll work my way out. That will probably be the easiest one, and I'm just going to put them right sides together, and then using a 1/4-inch seam allowance, okay, I am just going to stitch along here. Now, you can pin if you want to. You can there's no seams to worry about. So I just like to put a pin on the side that I'm going to sew on. Okay, so you can see there that I've just stitched that down. Hopefully you can see that close enough. And I'm not going to worry about pressing it or anything like that at the moment. I'm just going to put my next piece on, which is the opposite side. And I'm just going to let that sit there for just a moment. And then I'm going to do the top and the bottom of these ones with our little yellow squares. And I'll do a little bit of chain piecing for that one. Oh, my machine doesn't like it when I'm speedy. And I'll just pop that one there, and I pop them back because then I know where I'm up to. Okay, because there's lots of little pieces in this one. And just remember to keep your 1/4 inch true, okay? Try to really focus on that, especially if you've not done any patchworking before. That is really key. There are lots of different 1/4 inch feet out there that you can get for your machines. There's some generic ones. There's ones with guides on it. There's ones that come with your machine that are specifically for your machine. But as I said, you can get some generic ones. And I found a marvelous pack. And I will leave a link up down below, and it's got all the different feet that you could possibly need. All right, so let's do some more chain piecing. So I'm going to basically start assembling these top ones here. And I'll just grab the extra top one, the final one as well, because we're doing exactly the same thing. And then we'll grab the one down here. And then when we pull them out, we'll just do the other sides, because we know that we've just got those little cornerstones going onto those. You have to excuse me today. My throat is very croaky for some reason. Drunk lots of water. Just doesn't want to seem to shift today. So I do apologise for that. Don't feel sick as such, just feel a bit croaky in the throat. Okay, so let's just pop them back so we know where they go. All right, and then we'll just start adding the other ones on at the opposite end. Nice and simple. We thought I'd start the year off with a simple one. So basically what will happen, as I said in the intro, by the end of the year, you will have 26 blocks. They will be in various different sizes, and basically you'll be able to just start piecing them together. I'll probably continue on making some quilts and everything into the new year of 2024 after I've made all the blocks, to give you some ideas. Or we might just do a live stream or something like that to play around on the design board and see what we can't come up with. So I'll be adding like strips of fabric and everything to build them out and whatnot, and it'll most likely be background fabric that I will add. I tend not to get too bold with my quilts. I like a white background fabric, so yeah, but you can do it in any colour that you want. All right, so we have all our little cornerstones sewn onto there. Next, what we're going to do is snip them apart, and we're just going to lay them back down. And this is where I will press all of my pieces that I've just sewn, and I'm going to press my seams open because I find it a lot easier to nest everything up, and it's just a way that I like to do things. So I'm going to pause here, grab my iron, set it all up and come back, and then we'll do some pressing. Okay, so basically what I do before I start pressing with the iron, I'll just flip it over and I will press my seams open, okay, and just give it without stretching them too much. And as you can see, I just flip them over, open them up and get them to sit a little bit flatter. I'm not stretching as such, I'm just pressing those seams open, and what that does, it just makes it a little bit easier when I bring the iron over, and just saves me a little bit of time. And you can do your whole quilt with just finger pressing. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I have done that, and you've probably seen me do that on my videos. I prefer to just finger press as I go and then do a final press. But with something like this, when I've got a lot of different little pieces in it, I will actually, once I've sewn the first parts of it, I will, before I start assembling, I will give it a really good press. And as you can see, I'm just pressing them open, not stretching them, and they're pretty much, like you can see there, they sit pretty flat. And as I press them, I will sit them back in the position that they need to be on the design board, which is just off camera. And now I can start pressing them. Okay, and then I'll just lay them back down as I'm going. And I'll snip off any long threads as I'm going as well, because sometimes I forget to snip off the threads. Okay, so when I come back, we will be ready to start assembling it. Okay, so we have now pressed all our bits and pieces. So what we're going to do now is start the final assembly. So I am going to start in the center, and I'm going to work my way out. All right, so we've got some pieces here that don't have any cornerstones on them. So basically what that means is we will sew our center one, and then we will put on our side pieces to that, and then we will add our top and bottoms, okay? But for now, we're going to work on the center. So we're going to take our top one, and we're going to line up our seams. Okay, now we need to really be careful of what we're doing. All right, and basically I'm going to line them up, and everybody knows it's been around for a while. I do love my fork pins because it pins on either side of the seam. So that's what I'm going to do with both of my seams. I'll line them up and then put the fork pins in. And I just find that nothing moves on me then, and I get a really nice finish. All right, now let me just check this one because I think that moved as I was talking, and yes, it did. All right, so I'm lining up my raw edges, but the main focus I'm focusing on is my seams right now, and I'm making sure that my raw edges are lining up in the center part. I don't tend to worry too much about here while I'm pinning. As I go to the sewing machine, I will adjust that, and you can see it's pretty good. It sits pretty flush anyway because you've lined your seams up. All right, so let's start stitching this all together. You can see there that our little cornerstones are matching up, and at this stage too I will also just finger press these open. It will just make it easier when it comes time to pressing it and to take a little less time. So I do this step now. Doesn't want to stay open, just give it a press with the iron. Okay, so our piece is done. I just had to, it wasn't sitting for me. So now I'm just going to repeat the same thing down the bottom. And it's pretty good, like when you've got it pressed open, you can pretty much just lay it on top and slide it down and pretty much know that they are going to be lining up. And if you open it up and just have a quick look, you'll see that it is lining up really well. Okay, and again, we're just going to put our fork pins in. Okay, so we've now stitched that down, and we're going to press that open, and we will have to square this up. Now this centerpiece needs to measure 6.5 inches. So set this aside and grab your rulers, and we're going to press open the seams that we just stitched. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to square this up, and I'll just move my sewing machine a little bit. Okay, and what I do is I use these rulers that have these 45-degree marks on them, and I line that up corner to corner. And I want to make sure that the 45-degree angle is going through my cornerstones. And you can see there that we just need to take a little bit off, not too much. Okay. And that's going to square it up for us. And then I'll just, as you just seen, I turn it around, and then I do the other two sides. Okay. And you can see there that it's not very much that comes off. All right, so now that that is all squared up, we can set our ruler aside and our rotary cutter. We'll bring our block back in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take our side pieces, which are 6.5 inches, and we're going to line our raw edges up, and we're going to stitch them down on both sides. Just make sure that your seams are laying flat when you go over them. Sometimes they can move. And repeat for the other side, and just making sure our raw edges are all lined up and that our seams are laying flat. Okay, so now once we've done that, we're going to again press our seams open, get rid of any long threads, and then we'll add our green pieces with the cornerstones on to the top and the bottom. Okay, so that is now done. Now what we need to do is just add our top and bottom one on, and we're just going to line up our seams, and we'll use our fork pins as always. And I do apologise if you can hear a little kid across the road in full whinge mode. She's trying to negotiate with her mum to get an extra hour of playtime. It's not working, and I don't know if you can hear it or not, but yeah. She gets a little bit loud and a little bit whiny at times. She's an adorable little thing, but yeah, she's always, every afternoon, she's trying to negotiate with her mum for an extra hour of playtime. And it never works. She's a cute little thing though. All right, so because we're starting to work with some longer pieces, we're going to add a few extra pins in. And again, we're just going to use our 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitch that down. And then we'll repeat that for the bottom, the last one that we've got left here. And then we're just going to repeat that for the other one. A couple of extra pins in there, 1 or 2. And just as you're stitching, just make sure that you check that any seams that you've got open are laying flat and they're not curling up. Okay, because we don't want that. Oh, she's trying hard today. Mum's got to go somewhere though. It's terrible. I can hear the whole conversation. I'm hoping that you guys aren't, but yeah, I'm just having a chuckle to myself, and that's what I'm having a giggle about, because I've had these conversations myself in the last couple of weeks with Mia being here. So yeah, it's like, no, we've got to go and do some stuff. All right, so you can see there we've sewn them on. These fork pins, they are a game changer. If you haven't tried them yet, please grab some from the link down below and give them a go. They are an absolute game changer. All right, so we are going to press our seams open like always, and then we're going to square this piece up to 9.5 inches. Okay, because remember our white pieces are 9.5 inches by 2 inches. And I just do this with my fingers because I just find it easier when I get to the ironing pad to press it open then. And then just repeat for the other one. I know that's off camera and you can't see it, but okay, so grab your larger ruler, and there are links down below for ruler sets if you don't have a large ruler, but you need something that you can measure 9.5, and a 12.5-inch ruler is a really good versatile ruler to have in your toolbox. And again, we're just going to do exactly the same as we did with the 6.5. I'm just lining up the 45 degree angle corner to corner, and you can see we don't really need to cut that much off. So I am just going to line that up as best as I can and as straight as I can, and then I'll grab my rotary cutter and just take off what we need to, which, as I said, is not a great deal. Okay, and sometimes you might end up taking just a little bit more off one side than the other, but that's where the 45 degree angle comes in handy, because that helps you get a really nice balanced block. Okay, and that up over here. All right, I think we're ready to go. There we go. And that's it. All right, so you can set your ruler aside, get rid of all your scrap, and then we'll bring our design board back. And the next pieces that we're going to put on are our side pieces for our white. So again, we're just going to lay them right sides together, lining up our raw edges. We've got no seams to really worry about, except to make sure that our ones that we've pressed open stay open as we are stitching that. Just make sure everything's lining up and adjust as you need to. Our other one on the other side. Okay, so again, we're going to press those seams open, and then we'll add our top and our bottom on. Okay, so now all we've got to do is line up our seams, put in our fork pins, sew those on, and then when I come back, it will be all assembled and we'll square it up. Okay, so let's head over to the sewing machine and sew that down. Remember to use your 1/4 inch. Just turn that around and do our other side. Okay, so once you've done that, we will get rid of any of our long threads and we will press that open, and we're going to give it a really good press, and then we will square it up to 12.5 inches, because remember, at this stage, before it is in the quilt, it will be measuring 12.5 inches. Okay, so I've given that a really good press. Now I'm going to grab my ruler again, my 12.5 inch ruler, and again I'm going to do like I do with all of the other blocks. I'm just going to have that diagonal 45-degree angle going along my diagonals, and that way I know that it's going to square up nicely. Okay, and I can see that that is looking pretty good. So just take a little bit off this side, a little bit off the top, then I'll spin that around so I've got two straight edges. Again, I'm just going to align that up, push that down. You can see my diagonal is going through there quite nicely. And I don't really need to take much off. All right. Okay, so let me get rid of all this stuff. And that is our Alabama twist block. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I do appreciate you being here and clicking on this video and seeing what it's all about. Or, as I said, all the links for everything that I used in the video today, if they're available, will be down underneath this video, along with your PDF and also your PDF with your A to Z quilt challenge. And yeah, so that was the Alabama twist. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in 2 weeks for for B, not number, letter B. And I'm not too sure what I'm going to do. I've found several that I want to do, and I've designed a couple as well, so you'll have to tune in 2 weeks on Wednesday and see what we're going to be making. But that's it from me today. If you've not yet liked this video, please give it a thumbs up down below. Leave me a comment down below and tell me if you like this block or not, or if you're joining in the fun, and leave me a little spool emoji if you've just watched it and you're not actually doing any quilting. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.